Yeah, look, the answer is the Boston Garden game where he dropped 63 on Larry Bird. It was quite obvious, even though people at the time were, you don't want to say off of one game, and he averaged 28 points as a rookie, and then he came back and he was hurt the next year, and then he came back and dropped that at Boston Garden. And Magic was winning MVPs still and all that stuff. Michael Jordan was already the best player who ever lived. Like by that, it was obvious there's no one else like him, but there just wasn't the track record yet for everyone to admit it. The next year, he averaged 37 points. In game one against the Knicks, Stephen A. is a good kind of starting point because that season, for a guard back then, to average 37 efficient points a night, counting by 2, super high usage rate, not shooting threes, not even a good jump shooter yet, really, just taking it hard to the hole and averaging 37. There was nothing like it. If you look back now, you still can't believe it. And during the course of that season, people understood that Michael Jordan was different. I remember arguing with my father back then because centers had so dominated the NBA really forever. And we were arguing about whether the Knicks would trade Ewing for Jordan. And I was trying to explain to him, you don't understand. It's like you would trade anybody for Michael Jordan. And then I was told he would never win a championship. So before he won the championship, the moment that really stands out to me was the dunk contest against Dominique, where I know people say, oh, Dominique should have won, whatever. But Jordan, paying homage to Dr. J and dunking from the foul line the way he did, and even really improving on that dunk, was sort of the iconic signature moment. So if I had to pick one that represented what we were all watching over those course of the years before he won a championship, that would probably be it.
I think you guys both waited too long to figure this thing out. Now, I obviously remember all the games you're talking about. I remember that 82 championship game like it was being played yesterday, and the 63 that he scored at Boston Garden against arguably the greatest team ever, the 86 Celtics. But, Stephen A. Smith, you and I both know that the other players in the NBA, the other great ones, saw this coming when Jordan was a rookie, because Isaiah Thomas and a bunch of those guys froze him out of the All-Star game his rookie year. They weren't going to let him steal that show from them, because they already knew that Michael Jordan was the best player in the NBA, the best player in the world. So maybe we didn't figure it out until what he did in Boston Garden the following year. But the best players in the NBA already recognized he was better than they were, and they weren't going to let him steal their biggest show. They froze him out of the All-Star game his rookie year, and I think that sort of set the table for his vision of the other stars in the game, for the cold relationship between the Pistons and the Bulls, and all the rest of it. I think it started there.
Yeah,
well, when you talk about 85.
In terms of what they knew, but when you talk about everybody else, I get where you're coming from, but everybody else, you saw the talent, you saw the aerial assault, but you were still wondering, okay, is he going to be really, really tested? Because the Bulls were so awful that you really, really couldn't see. I mean, you saw his talent, but still, again, they were able to derail him. But I tell you what also helped him, Greeny. What helped him was Sam Bowie, because the fact that Sam Bowie was drafted number 2, a spot ahead of him, okay, that brought attention. Nobody had any qualms about Houston choosing Akeem the Dream Olajuwon at number 1, coming from Phi Slamma Jamma in Houston. But with number 2, with Sam Bowie going to Portland, and Sam Bowie coming in there, he could play. He just was saddled with injuries from his collegiate career on through. You just knew with Jordan elevating his level of play, it was like, damn, how could Portland make this mistake? And, of course, Jordan being Chicago. By the way, Jerry Krause didn't draft him. It was Rod Thorne, the former disciplinary czar with the NBA, that drafted Michael Jordan. A lot of people forget that.
Can I throw in one thought on that, by the way?
I think Greeny.
Yeah,
sure.
I'm sorry, Max, but I would
Greeny,
just pick up. Go ahead, Max. You go ahead.
No, go.
Well, what I was going to say is that what you will start seeing on Sunday night, I've seen the Last Dance. What you will start seeing on Sunday night is that the root of the hatred that a lot of those guys, in particular Michael, had for Jerry Krause is that Jerry Krause knew that Michael was the only piece of the championship teams he didn't put there. And so he never stopped resenting that. If Jerry Krause had been there a couple of years earlier and he himself had made that pick, because he put every other piece in place. He's the one who hired Phil Jackson when nobody wanted Phil. He was coaching in the CBA. He's the one who engineered a draft night trade for Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant. He's the one who subsequently traded Will Perdue straight up for Dennis Rodman. Krause is in the Hall of Fame because he made so many great moves as the GM. But the one piece he didn't put in place was Jordan, and that is the root of all of the animosity that existed all through that time between Krause and basically everybody else, Max.
Yeah, imagine this world, what the human ego is, that you are the GM of the Michael Jordan Bulls and you resent that guy. But I want to get back to when Jordan became MJ. Greeny, I hear what you're saying about that first season and Isaiah and the All-Stars reaction to Michael Jordan. I remember my late great brother Sam with a pair of Sky Jordans. I was like, oh, look at those, right? Those were the Air Jordans for little kids. They didn't have the air in them, but they looked the same. And, that was 1985, I want to say. The reason I take starting at Boston Garden and extending into that whole other year, as Stephen A. said, like opening night against the Knicks and that whole other year, I don't care what anyone says. We all knew we were looking at, from that moment, the best player who ever lived, and I don't think it was close. I don't think if you put people on a lie detector test with the Martian death beam pointed at Earth and it goes off if we're lying, if anyone says anyone other than Jordan when they put their eyes on him, it was like, and there are athletes that come along like this. They don't all pan out to be the greatest ever, but like when Mike Tyson was in his prime, no one wanted to say it out loud, but they're like, this guy's the best ever, right? It didn't turn out that way quite, but that's the impression he left on contemporaries. And it was really beginning at that Boston Garden game and extending through that season, he averaged 37, where he was simply unlike any other athlete in the history of sports. There was never someone who made an impression on their contemporaries the way Jordan did. You can go to someone like Babe Ruth. When a league is small and it's not really homogenized yet, there are great deviations from the mean. You get guys who are incredible and guys who are awful. But the NBA was a mature league by the time Jordan came around.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.